Hey, good morning, everybody. Still morning? 11-ish? Yeah, morning?
It's 11-ish.
So today's topic on passing notes is
It's supposed to be earlier, isn't it?
Eh.
But I'm always tardy.
It happens.
I think he wants me here at 9:30. I roll in like 10:30ish.
For a 10 o'clock show. That starts at 11:05. So today we're talking about judicial versus non-judicial states, why that's relevant to you.
And their foreclosures.
In their foreclosure, that's what I meant to say.
Right.
So like if you only invest in one state, well, it's still relevant. But if you are wanting to expand your investment strategies, then you need to know what it is, how it affects you as an investor, and how it affects you as a consumer.
Right. Right. And it also will affect the way that you make offers on this stuff. You know, if you're looking to branch into investing in notes and doing non-performing notes in maybe a state that's next to you, I mean, we're so close to Oklahoma. It's easier for me to drive to Oklahoma. I can get there faster than I can get to, say, Corpus Christi.
Right.
You know, so why wouldn't I be?
Why would you go to Oklahoma? That's the first question.
Well, you know, it's Oklahoma. But there's maybe people watching, and, you know, I would love Tulsa.
In Oklahoma, they don't have electricity or the internet. Too soon? Too much?
Too much? It depends.
Well, first of all, let's define
Judicial and non-judicial foreclosures. Yeah. So a judicial foreclosure is one that majority of the time takes place because you have to go get permission for from a judge to foreclose on them. So you basically have to file a lawsuit against your borrower, go in front of a judge, and he's got to say, yeah, you've got a case. You have permission to foreclose. Then you get to go foreclose.
So a helpful hint there is because it says judicial, judge, judgment, jaywalk to the courthouse. I don't know. But I mean, that's just an easy way to look at it is a judgment or judicial means judge.
Right.
Or in this context.
So a non-judicial foreclosure, you still need to go through the foreclosure process, but those are going to be your deed of trust states where you've got, it looks like you have this attorney presiding over these documents. So all you have to do is just go and file your foreclosure and record your documents down at the county courthouse.
So, so that's more of a like paperwork thing versus the hassle of going through. So in a lot of ways, it seems like for an investor standpoint, non-judicial is probably going to be the easiest route to go versus judicial.
Correct.
Especially if you're an investor out of Texas investing in a different state and you're like, I don't want to fly to that state. B, I don't want to hire somebody to go to that state. Or hire an attorney to go to that state.
Right. Well, and I mean, at a lot of times you're going to find, you know, when I'm doing things that are outside of Texas, I'm going to hire somebody local to that area who knows all the laws and all the procedures. So it's not, I mean, yeah, it's not like I'm going to run from and take my, you know, my Texas attorney and go take them over to, say, Ohio.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's one thing that, you know, as you develop your real estate team, especially if whether you're local or you're regional or national or whatever, you need to have the right experts in the right place, but also the right geographical space as well. Because an attorney that's really kick-ass in Dallas may not be as good in Fort Worth. Definitely is not as good as maybe in Galveston. And way not as good as they would be like for Ohio.
Well, and your attorney that you hire to do foreclosures in Dallas is going to be more expensive in Houston, is going to be more expensive in San Antonio because they've got to travel down there to do that foreclosure.
Well, and they probably also have to go through the research process of, hey, is there anything different here?
Right. And maybe that's a little, you know, most of those major cities pretty much work all the same way.
But if you're getting an attorney, you hope that they're at least checking.
Well, and one of the number one things, right now I'm putting out offers just on anything that I'm like, wow, that looks like a great deal. And I'm not really, jumping into, do I have a team in place? Who am I? Obviously I've never been to this small town in Illinois. Who's the realtor that I'm going to get to do a drive-by and go see what's going on if anybody's living at this house.
Right.
So again, there's a lot of stuff that you build afterwards, but I still have done my homework on, is it a judicial state? Is it or non-judicial? What's it going to take? What's my timeline? to foreclose if I have to.
As an investor, you shouldn't care judicial versus non-judicial, but which one's easier?
Non-judicial.
Okay.
And faster.
Does that mean potentially there's more money to be made in judicial just because it may scare off other investors, say, I don't want to deal with all that crap?
So just as yes. So if you bid those correctly, knowing that you don't have as much competition in those judicial states, yes, you can pick up some stellar deals, but you also have to know, hey, I need to prepare for the worst case scenario. Because what if, obviously there's not as many investors here because people have gotten burned.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm thinking right now with, especially dealing with extra courts and getting in front of a judge. Well, our virus numbers are on the rise right now. So I fully believe that means courts aren't going to be in session as much, or, are they going to be doing things, Zoom hearings?
Daisy, she just flagged our video again.
Oh.
Saying things like virus.
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I allowed to say that?
I'm just kidding. No, it's just the way the YouTube, YouTube. Then the censorships is real.
Okay. We need code words.
I'm playing, but I'm not playing, but I'm playing.
Okay, so
I definitely won't be able to.
I'm not going to talk about that then.
I definitely wouldn't be able to advertise boost this video.
Can you go back and cut that out?
No, I don't want to.
Can you mute me? Can you beat me?
We're fine. Beep. Did you say beat or beep?
Beep.
Okay.
Well,
so as
beat
far
me
as
later for that. Okay.
it seems like it's pretty straightforward. Where do investors mix up, or where do they get confused? Because if the simple difference is judicial versus non-judicial is, hey, go stand in front of a judge to get foreclosed on, or here's a piece of paper.
Honestly, I think it's the same thing that flippers get into, right? They're sent something from a wholesaler and they're like, oh, best case scenario, right? And they instantly look at, I can make $50,000 here. But they don't go into it and go, all right, well, these are the best case scenarios on comps. And this rehab budget might be a little light. Whereas the same thing for non-performing note investors, don't go, if you've got a timeline to foreclose on something, yeah, you might not have to foreclose.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do, what does that look like? So if you're going 12 to 18 months to foreclose on something, don't go tell your investors who are backing you on buying this note, oh, we're going to be foreclosed on in 12 months, and then I'm going to get the property back, and this is what's going to happen. No, you need to be prepared for 18 months. And in certain times when courts are running more slowly, you might have to wait 24 months.
So do you think that's the biggest difference between judicial and non-judicial is the timeline?
Yes, because in here in Texas, we're 4 to 6 months.
Now or always?
Always.
Okay.
Always. Because it's 120 days, technically. So they've got from the day they miss their first payment,
mm-hmm.
right? It's about 4 months to get that property back.
And that's why they always say...
Right. If you wait on that, it might be 6 months, right? You drag your feet.
And that's why they always say it's like when you are owner financing and hey, if they miss a payment, immediately act on it, because every day you don't, you're losing out on a day on the future that you can actually act on it. Because the timeline is so strict.
Right. And if you miss, and I've been guilty of it as well, right? You get busy, you're working on some other projects, and all of a sudden you miss that. It's usually around the 11th of the month. Mm-hmm. You miss that filing date to go and file for the upcoming month to foreclose on them.
So you got to wait another month.
And then, oh, okay, well, I'm busy. I'll get to that. Obviously, I missed this one. It's just procrastinating and kicking the can
mm-hmm.
down the road. And it happens, and it happens to the best of us. And I'd like to say, hey, I'm really good at all this, but I'm just as guilty.
And, to somebody that has one or two notes or one or two properties, like, that's insane. But when you have hundreds and everything's on a spreadsheet, and then you have passion projects, and then you have vacation, like that's that whole conversation of being a flipper and having a ghost house or a phantom house, where it's like you have 100 properties on the board and you forget 1 to 3 Main Street's been sitting there for a year and a half vacant.
Funny.
It's not
funny, but I mean, or you've even got newer investors who are totally into it, but they go crazy one week and they buy like 6 houses,
mm-hmm.
and then they realize, oh my gosh, I don't have the bandwidth to actually do 6 remodels at one time.
well, let's do these first two, and then we'll come back to the four, and then we get the next
Right,
two.
and then there's other good deals. Oh, I want to do those. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, they've had those properties for a year and a half, 2 years, and they haven't done anything with them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a funny conversation, especially when you're talking to people that maybe aren't familiar with that kind of like situation.
Right.
They're like, how do you have a house that you haven't worked on or lived in or rented or sold or whatever?
I've done it, and I've done it more than once.
You know, I think a lot of it comes with age though, because, you know, I was talking about this the other day about how as you get older, your concept of time is dramatically different. So you're like, well, I closed on that house last week, and then your assistant or your title person's like, we closed on that 4 months ago.
Right.
And you're like, no, there couldn't be 4 months.
Well, and a lot of it also comes with how hungry are you, right? If you're basically living hand to mouth, paycheck to paycheck,
you're on it.
You're on it. That house is getting done. When you've reached, you know, you're a little older, you've been doing it for a long time, you've reached a slight modicum of success. All right, well, I can carry that hard money loan payment. It's not even that big of a deal. So,
well, it's also kind of like checking your bank card statements or credit card statements quarterly versus weekly or monthly. It's like, I didn't pay for that, or I didn't buy that. What is this? And then your bank or credit card's like, well, you missed the fraud date or whatever.
Yeah.
You're like, well, damn it. I mean, think about like that's how like Match.com or eHarmony and all those places make their big bucks, is they get people to sign up for those 3-month contracts, and then you do it, and then you forget you have it, and then a year and a half later you're like, what is this $75 charge? And then you look at your records,
and you're
and
like,
then
I've been doing it every month.
Yeah, I've been paying $75 for 2 years. What the hell? You're like, I've been married for 3 years. My wife's gonna kill me. Or I have a girlfriend, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or I'm still
Yeah.
single, and this never worked. I don't care. I don't know. Anyway, same analogy, but my point being is, it can be lost.
Right.
You know.
So how do I combat that? Me personally, especially if I've got, you know, right now I've got offers in on things that I'm anticipating are going to take 12 to 18 months. And, you know, I'm prepared to spend that money and just park it there for a little while to see what happens, because they're at a reasonably good price.
So when you say park, what do you mean by park?
Well, because I'm taking cash and I'm buying this asset.
the note.
The note. And
it's not performing, because that's why you're able to buy a discount. So
at an extreme discount.
But when you're buying this note, are you leveraging it, or are you buying it straight up cash?
I'm buying these straight up cash.
Okay.
But if I'm buying them at 15 to 20% of what the value of that property is,
Right.
I mean, it's a great investment.
Right.
So, you know, and these banks obviously have lost this, you know, a couple of these, I'm not expecting to modify these loans at all, just because the people haven't been paying for about a decade.
So the play there is, you're like, and we're talking about the judicial states.
Right.
The play is you buy the note at a severe discount. When you say parking the money, is because you're not earning anything on it, but it's like,
I need to be prepared that money is not coming back to me, not returning an investment for 12 months.
Or longer, or without a fight, because you will have to fight.
Possibly. We talked last time about the deficiency clause. So I think I'm a little stronger going into negotiations to get people who have been basically living for free and stealing not from me.
Can you imagine though, going back to that deficiency clause, is like you buy it at 15% of the property value. Then you sue, or then you foreclose and sue. And if you get the house back and you have a judgment, I mean, obviously, if they haven't been paying for a decade,
Right.
they're not going to pay the
So,
the law
and further
fees,
looking at that, that's the difference between recourse and non-recourse loans. So if you have a non-recourse loan, they can't enact that deficiency clause on it. You can't be sued for that difference of
Right.
any losses to that lender. But if you've got a recourse loan, which is basically every loan out there, unless I think it's the only ones that are non-recourse are the ones that are done to like an IRA or something like that, a retirement account.
Well, also like more of the investor-friendly loans, you know.
Oh, no. No, those are all recourse.
Recourse in the sense that they get the property, but are they saying recourse in the sense that they're going to sue your ass off?
They can. They have the right.
Oh, damn.
No, almost all of them are recourse.
Really?
Otherwise, you're going to pay an even higher. You're going to pay more points, and you're going to pay a higher interest rate than even what you would be doing. All of my loans that
That's just pay cash. People don't borrow money. Just pay cash. You know, that's how you get rich.
That is not good advice.
Leverage
other people's money.
Never leverage.
Leverage everything.
OPM, yeah.
OPM, leverage everything. But anyways, so yeah, the difference between foreclosure and in a judicial and non-judicial state, you've got to be prepared for that. Do I ever want to foreclose? No, I want them to just deed the house back over to me and do a deed in lieu, cash for keys, as long as title is basically clean.
Right.
If it's not clean, then I really do want to foreclose so I can get just a clean slate and wipe off any past defaults.
So what is the difference in judicial, non-judicial in the States? I mean, is there an easy way to determine which is which, or is there
it's
you
really
just
not.
go to Google it?
No,
or?
You've got to go Google each state and then also Google the county that it's in. So depending on, there are some rural counties in Texas that take a long time to get a judge there. Because there's just not a lot of people in the state, right? And so maybe the judge only goes in once a week.
But isn't Texas non-judicial?
Texas is non-judicial, but when you're going and doing things like eviction,
yeah.
You know, and still you've got to look at when's the recording office open.
So basically what I'm hearing is do not invest in small towns ever.
Again, I've made a lot of money in like small Texas towns.
No, don't listen to Ryan.
Yeah,
ever.
I'm like, no,
I've
made it. That's the whole thing. There's so much opportunity in those areas where there's few competitors, because fewer competitors, less competition equals lower prices.
Right.
That you can buy in at. So there really is a lot of.
It all goes back to it depends. Honestly.
Well, it's supply and demand.
Right.
Right. So if they've got supply but not a lot of demand, there's potential to make a lot of money in these judicial states.
Right.
And the ones that I'm pretty afraid of are things like New York, California, because you're looking at states that they don't have a problem going, yeah, we don't want you to evict anybody.
Well, and also you got the political climate.
Exactly. So if you're in
investor friendly versus non-investor friendly.
Exactly. Or business friendly.
Business friendly, yeah.
Business friendly. And Texas is very business friendly.
So to wrap this up, put a bow on it, whatever, you've got judicial, non-judicial, both are advantageous. Is there a better, is there a worse? Is it just different, like from an investor standpoint, or is it just like you just got to be aware?
Judicial is definitely easier. And the other thing...
Judicial is easier.
No. Non-judicial is easier, faster.
Got it.
So, but look at how long you typically have to wait. Because starting with Dodd-Frank in January 1 of 2014, Texas used to be 30 days. You'd miss a payment, 30 days, we're starting, we can go file foreclosure. As soon as they miss that 20-day notice to accelerate. Well, Dodd-Frank said if it's an owner-occupied house, you've got to wait 120 days. So Texas is between 90 and 120 days, depending on who your attorney is, to get that notice to accelerate and then start the foreclosure process once they miss that.
So how in both cases, non-judicial and judicial, how important is a good attorney on your team?
It's so important.
Okay. Is it more important for like the judicial side or for the non-judicial side, or is it equally?
It's equally important. It's equal. I mean, having a good foreclosure attorney, period, and knowing who does foreclosures in the area that you are investing in is all. I mean, do I regularly use a foreclosure attorney? No, I don't here in Texas.
Is it because once you get the paperwork, you can just rinse and repeat?
Yeah. Well, no, I don't do my own paperwork like that.
Got it.
But I try never to foreclose.
Got it.
I try to always do cash for keys because I don't want to be out.
Like a deed in lieu type thing?
Yeah, like a deed in lieu. Yeah, deed in lieu, which deed in lieu of foreclosure. To avoid foreclosure, as long as that title is clean. But I still need an attorney or a title company to run title to look at it and go, yeah, go ahead and do a deed in lieu.
But if you can't get clean, then you got to foreclose.
Then you got to foreclose.
Because then you can get everything to wipe it and be like, nope, this is good. You're
Yeah,
brand
so
new paperwork.
I think if you're going to, especially if you're going to be going into judicial states to invest, you know, I would say, like, before, if I get these bids accepted, my first thing is I'm going to have title runs done on all of those properties, because I want to see, hey, can I do a deed in lieu of foreclosure on this instead of going through foreclosure?
We talked about how important an attorney is. What about, and you've been talking about the title company for the past 2 minutes. Like, do you think, how important is the title company? Is that like everything on this? Or is that just like, it's just, yeah, it's important, but it's not like more important or anything?
You need to be prepared to pay your title company to do a title run and give you, you know, something going, okay, for me to give title insurance on this, I need to have all, you know, these 4 things removed off of, you know, the Schedule C on the title commitment. Well, all right, well, what are those 4 things? And you look at them and go, how easy is it going to be to get that? Are these people still tied to the property? When you're dealing with non-performing notes where somebody hasn't paid for 8 years, there's a lot of stuff that could be on there. And it might be with people, you know, lenders on these notes. I mean, obviously you're buying it. They're not fixing title when you buy this thing. So are they going to sign, you know, if they've got default judgments against them? The lenders. Right. Sometimes you even see it on lenders. So they've got to pay those things before, you know, again, what do you do in these cases? You foreclose instead of taking a deed in lieu.
What are the biggest questions you get from like students or mentees or just random passerbys at events, like when it comes to judicial, non-judicial? Or is it such a, it's only relevant if you're a bigger player because you're doing multiple states?
Biggest question I always get is it a good deal? You know, is it safe to go do it?
Judicial, non-judicial, or the deal specific?
Are
they coming to you and saying, is it a good deal if it's judicial, or is it a good deal 123 Main Street, here are the numbers? Like that type of question.
They're asking, is it a good deal in general?
Got it.
Because there's a lot of, I mean, you know, yeah, I've got students who love the idea of owning something in Manhattan. I got to be honest, I do too, and we're going to have a lot of that. But what are you talking about for foreclosure there? It could be 2 years. It could be longer. So yeah, you're going to pick up something. I mean, I could pick up something at 15 or 20 cents on the dollar in Manhattan today. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I'd be all over that.
Yeah, regardless of the political climate, because political climate is just like everything else, cyclical.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Biden is a reflection of Trump. Trump's a reflection of Obama. Obama's a reflection of Bush, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the next person coming in will probably be a reaction to whatever we're about to get for the next 6 months.
Right.
See what I did there?
I did. Very good. No, and again, it's, you know, are there good deals? Yes. But are there states that are a little more frightening than others? I can tell you that I have very few note buyers in my, you know, because I will wholesale non-performing notes all day long. And I have very few that will buy in New York, New Jersey, the Carolinas, and California.
Yeah, I was going to say California for sure.
Those 5.
Which is so crazy because if you think about it, California, New York, all these places are like prime real estate places you would love to have property.
Right.
Or have investment property or private property or whatever you want to call it, just property.
Well, you know? And I mean, and then you love talking about Detroit. There are some amazing deals in Detroit, and it's not that difficult to foreclose up there. It really isn't. It's judicial.
Right.
But it's actually they foreclose very, very quickly because they want to get those properties active again and performing. They want to get their tax base up.
Random tangent, just for me and you.
Yeah.
And this might be complete fake news lies, and I may be making this up. I may have heard it. It may be truth. But I think if you're like a firefighter, and you really want to fight fires, like be a firefighter in Detroit, because like there's so many abandoned properties that they burn them down a lot.
Well, they burn them down to practice.
Or
instead of demolishing them.
Yeah, and you also have arsonists.
the crazy thing is in Michigan and parts of Ohio too. I mean, major cities in Ohio are like this. If you can only sell a house for like $1,500 or $2,000, that's a foreclosure. You can pick up that note for that or even less. You know, if you can pick up a note, a non-performing note in Michigan or Ohio for $500 to $1,000, there's a chance there's nobody living there.
Right.
And if that's the case, there's abandonment clauses, you know, so you can get clean title and you can do a very fast foreclosure on those homes.
Oh, that sounds very
because
fun.
it's abandonment.
Because again, whether you're buying a $500 house, a $1,000 house in Detroit, Dallas, New York, whatever, or BFE,
there is value there.
There's always value in real estate because real estate's finite. You know, there's not.
It will. I mean, yes, it goes up and down as we've seen in the past, but as inflation happens, the cost of rent, the cost of housing. I mean, I'm sorry, if you pick up a $1,000 non-performing note, yes, you might have to go put $5,000 or $10,000 in it to fix it up to a point where somebody will live there. But if you're all in at $10,000 and you're renting it at $700 or $800 a month,
my point.
I mean, that's incredible.
My point would be even more extreme than that. If you're able to buy land in the United States for that cheap, you may never see profit on it, but your generations down the line could.
Yes. If you can pick up a lot for $500 or $1,000.
Yeah, and like you said, be able to park it and not do anything on it.
5-6 years ago, you could do that here in Dallas.
Yeah, in not Oak Cliff, Fair Park.
Yeah, you could go down there. Oh, lot, $500. $500.
And then rumors started flying. This is happening. Jerry World is going to build a stadium. And then all of a sudden.
And what are they now?
What's that?
What are those lots now? They're expensive.
Yeah.
Like I've seen them go out at $20,000-$30,000.
That's insane.
It is.
It's like, well, why weren't we? Because 7 years ago we were like, why would I even put
$500?
Why would I throw that money away?
Yeah.
Because I think back then it also is the throwing the money away / the liability of somebody tripping and suing you because you own the property.
Wow.
A lot, not the actual house, but just a lot.
Yeah. It could happen. No, I mean, but I know a lot of people, and they were okay. I got $500. I'll go buy a lot.
God.
You know what?
I wish I could go back and just buy a street.
I think about it, but you know what? We don't have those kind of opportunities here in North Texas or really Texas anywhere anymore. So maybe you go find another fishing hole.
I have seen investors like Claire Coggins go to like Greenville.
Well, yeah, she's all over Greenville.
She loves Greenville.
Yeah.
And I think like 8 years ago that was like a dying town, or might still be. I don't know. But she loves that. So there are opportunities out there where you can go in and, but there lies the problem. You spend all this money to revitalize a town or whatever, put money into a dying town or whatever, and if it doesn't come back to life, well, guess what? You just wasted your money.
Yeah, but Greenville was a smart bet because
it's so close.
It's so close. I mean, what are you talking? Half an hour, 45 minutes up there.
Yeah.
But now everything really between here and Greenville has been built up.
Yeah.
So, but did you know that 8 years ago?
Well, take where I live, $150,000 for a brothel. The windows broken, the subfloor is messed up, and then now lot value is $400,000.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I mean, you used to be able to buy in there for $50,000.
Well, there's a house. The first house that changed across the street was Kathy Crow was the wholesaler on it.
Really?
Yeah, she wholesaled a property for $100,000, or wholesale listing agent, whatever.
Right.
But so that was the first. So it got bought for $100,000, got torn down, and this is a funny story. But so the developer built a duplex.
Yeah.
And sold each side for $600 each. And it was a two.
And he bought the dirt for $100,000.
Bought the dirt for $100,000. Wow. But what funny to that is, so like 2 months after the first person moved in, there was like police everywhere. They had locked off all the streets. There's a police helicopter flying around with a spotlight looking for like a fugitive running around. Yeah. And I was like, these idiots just spent $600,000 on a 1,800 square foot duplex, half duplex.
Half duplex.
And now there's a fugitive on the loose outside. But, you know, now those around that area, it's like 800,000.
Right.
For a half duplex.
For a half duplex. And everything's built up.
Yeah, my neighbors back then were, they were like, hey, we want to sell the house. What can we get for it? And I looked at we're like, we want to get 150. I was like, I'm looking at the comps. I'm like, well, I mean, you probably get 135. Like, we really want 150. I was like, oh, well, I mean.
Let's see.
They could have got 150, but I wanted wholesale. So,
right.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah.
So anyway, so then a year later goes by, and I go back. I'm like, oh, hey, by the way, you could probably sell this for 200. I know a year or two ago you were 150. Now it's 200. And I was going to get 225. And they're like, well, we really want 500.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you're not getting 500. It's 250 maybe, but 500 no. Wait another year or two. And it's like, hey, by the way, you probably can get 400 or so. We want $1 million.
Yeah, they're crazy.
I'm like, you're not getting $1 million.
Those are the people who are looking at
the
finished property and going, oh, if somebody's paying that, we can take off $200,000. And
what it was is they had like 18 people living there, and now they've just kept on adding more and more to the house.
I love your neighborhood.
I know, it's so
your
eclectic.
Neighborhood is just freaking
It has nothing to do with
awesome.
judicial, non-judicial, but whatever. It's fun. But literally that house is going to be like the house and up, where everything developed and it's just like this little house in the middle. But anyway, we're straying a lot. Judicial, non-judicial. Final thoughts on that?
You know, there's so much opportunity in other states. And so for anybody watching this, yeah, go look at the closest state to you. Do your research, find out what it is. If you find out that it is judicial instead of non-judicial, you can probably pick it up for an even better deal than what you would normally pay for it. And when I say good deals, I mean, you're talking about notes that have been around for a while. You know, their loan to value on that unpaid principal value might be sitting at like 60% of whatever that value of that property is worth. And if you can come in and pay half of that 60%, well, you're picking up a property for 30% of value. And, you know, we're seeing people, you know, especially in Texas, pay 75, 80% of value.
Right.
Anyways, just, you know, and then they have to sell it for basically more. They're hoping that they'll get some appreciation in 6 months, you know, and so they can pay that amount for it.
At the end of the day, do your homework, do due diligence, consult an attorney,
and don't
all
be,
those things.
And don't be afraid of it, but just know what the worst case scenario is. And are you okay if it goes that route?
Right. Well, cool. Well, if you're new to this channel, please subscribe. YouTube.com/passingnotes. Help us out with a subscription. Well, subscription sounds like.
Subscribe.
It's free.
It's all
free.
you have to do is click on that little button.
Yeah, like and follow.
And then people will.
Yeah, give us a thumbs up. Also, I'm Ryan S. Harper. You can follow me on the Instagrams. That's me right there as well. And this is
KRISTIN GERST, and you can find me at KRISTIN GERST on KRISTIN_GERST.
No, it's just at KRISTIN GERST.
At KRISTIN GERST.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So thanks for being here. Oh, if you're interested in learning more about notes and how to invest in notes, KRISTIN has a members-only notes group. It's passingnotesgroup.com, aka the Note Group, where every week we get together and discuss notes and learn notes and sell notes and all those things.
I let all of my note students have first crack.
Cool. Well, thanks again for being here, and we'll see you next time.